That's the entire week. So sorry guys, that's why we give you water, it's trout. All right. It's been one of those mornings. Sorry guys, hold on a second. All right, so 2 hours, we're gonna make 3 stops along the way, physically get off the bus. Our very first stop will be on that NASA Causeway. See 3 of our active launch pads over on the Air Force Station side. 37, 40, and 41. Makes sense, right? Because that's how NASA counts. 37, 40, 41, 39A, 39B. All right, makes sense, totally. So we'll see our 3 pads over there. 2 of them are from United Launch Alliance. That's a company owned by Lockheed Martin and Boeing. So they launch Atlas V rockets from a Delta Force. The other pad we'll see is pad 40. That one's going to be SpaceX. Now people will not go up from that pad. That's a resupply pad. So stuff going to the space station or sending satellites to space. But we haven't launched from there since September because of the anomaly that happened. Rock blew up. So our second stop will be on what's called the AV camera stop. See 3 of our active launch pads over on the airport. You can tell it's been one of those days I'm on autopilot. Second stop, we're not going back to the same place. I promise we'll go someplace different. The AV camera stop. It's a remote camera location in between pads 39A and 39B. That's where all the space shuttles left from and all the moon rockets. Good morning, how are you? You're good, you made it plenty of time. You still got time to spare. My name is John. Yeah, no problem. My name is John, by the way.
John, hi John.
All right. So then second stop, we'll get a great view of pads 39A and B, great view of the ocean as well. Our third and final stop will be in front of the vehicle assembly building. It's the big giant building we build all of our rockets inside of. Now we cannot go inside because of construction, getting ready for the new space launch system. But we are the only tour that stops out front. There's a plaza just for us, some artifacts from the shuttle days, including the actual swing arm from pad 39A. So every shuttle astronaut that went off 39A had to walk across this swing arm to get on their space shuttle. The reason it's sitting there, we are a wildlife refuge. Now when you look at it, you'll notice it is sitting in the middle of a parking lot. The reason it's there is because an osprey built a nest on top of it. Therefore we're not allowed to touch it. So it still sits there. But that's why it's out there, not in the museum, because an osprey built a nest on it. All right. When we're done, like I said, we're not going to drop you off here. We'll drop you off at the Saturn V Center. That's where we have that real Saturn V rocket. Guys, it's the size of a football field. It's 363 feet long. It's huge. And it's broken into stages, so you can actually see all the electrical work and all the wiring down on the bottom of each stage. It's amazing. Real moon rock everyone can touch with real germs on it, guys. Wash your hands after you touch the moon rock later. I've worked in tourism for about 3-4 years. It's always flu season. It's always flu season. So, let's see. When you're done, any bus will bring you back. All right, guys. It'll be about 12:30 when we're done with our tour. So if you're wondering about lunch and all that stuff, just go eat lunch over there at the Saturn V Center. They have all the same food we have here at the visitor complex, and I think it's a little better as well. So, and it's really great to eat lunch under an actual Saturn V rocket, or on a day like today, go outside and eat lunch in front of the launch pads, kind of stuff like that. All right. So a few ground rules before we get going. Rule number 1, please remain seated while the bus is in motion. All right, pretty simple. Rule number 2, no eating, drinking, or smoking on board the bus. Just don't make a mess. That's really all that means. Just don't make a mess. Rule number 3, conversations. We understand some of you may need to translate or just want to talk to everyone around you. That's fine, not a problem. Just use common courtesy. Keep your voices down so you don't interrupt the people around you. Same thing with cell phones. You do not have to turn them off. Just keep them on silent or vibrate. For the same reason, common courtesy. I know that's not a thing anymore, but we're going to try it here on this bus, so you can do this, right? So yeah, just don't interrupt the people around you. The real reason you don't have to turn your phones off, pictures, you guys have some pretty heavy-duty cameras, but most people just use their cell phones, right? My dad actually uses 800 speed film still. No idea where he gets it. I think he hasn't got an alley somewhere, but that's besides the point. But yeah, guys, you can take pictures of anything you want. The only exception is security in the guard shack. They just don't have the same sense of humor I do, all right? Now, real quick, I'd like to introduce our tour escort. Everyone say good morning to Doug. Hi, Doug. Hi. Doug controls the air conditioning. All right, so be very, very nice to Doug. He can make it a lot more uncomfortable than I can real quick. All right, no matter how bad my jokes are. So as you can tell, I think I'm funny. So you can hear a lot of jokes today, all right? You can hear a lot of really bad jokes. So the way I always like to start my tour, give you a little bit of background on myself. I'm from Massachusetts originally. Doesn't sound like it. I'm from Western Mass. It means I don't have an accent. Now, Doug is actually from the Boston area. He does. You know what the difference is? He parks the con have a yard. I park it in a parking lot like everyone else. Exactly. But yeah, I moved down here at 18. I went to the Florida Institute of Technology down in Melbourne, Florida. Anyone know that school? If you don't, it's a really good school. We've had more astronauts come from that school than any other school in the world. Buzz Aldrin's on staff there, Winston Scott, and for some reason, Doug Flutie. If you remember who Doug Flutie is, that makes no sense, but he's on the board of directors there. Right? Isn't that weird, Doug? Yeah, go figure. Yeah, he should be at BC, or he should be at Miami, just for converting it. All right. Now, the reason I say that, like I said, you can hear a lot of terrible jokes. I promise I do know what I'm talking about. I try to walk that fine line between entertainment and education. I think I do a good job of it. So I'll give you in a quick nutshell how I do my tours. So I can tell you that the fixed service structure on pad 39A is about 400 feet tall. That's that big, tall tower on the launch pad. All right, cool, it's a fact, whatever. Well, what if I told you at the very top of that is what's called the last toilet on Earth? It's the last chance to go to the bathroom before getting on a space shuttle. We're talking about the same place. What's up? 23. Michael Jordan. Yep, so which one of those are you more likely to remember? The fact that it's a certain height or there's a toilet up top? Let's be honest, the toilet. So I'm not going to sit here and bore you with facts. You know, I'm not an engineer or scientist. I do have a bachelor's of science degree, but it's in communications. All right? So I'll have some fun. I do these every day. I need to be entertained as well. All right? I'm one of those kind of people. So we'll have some fun, and trust me, we'll learn some stuff. All right. Doug, you gonna watch the Celtics game tonight? Oh yeah. Anyone a basketball fan on board by any chance? Yeah.
How are the Warriors doing?
They'll be fine until they lose to the Celtics in the finals, but they're doing all right. All right. It's crazy. Isaiah Thomas is 5'9". This guy's 5'9". He scored 53 points last game.
Yeah.
Imagine that. He's 5'9". He scored 53 points last game. It's crazy. I'm from Springfield, Mass. That's where basketball was invented, so that's kind of a big deal for us. All right, so let's get the tour started. So Central Florida, a lot of amazing things down here, right? A lot of amazing things down here. So let's go down the list. So we have theme parks, beaches, oranges, right? It's cattle. Cows are actually Florida's #1 export, and rockets. So let's go down that list one more time. Beaches, theme parks, oranges, cows, and rockets. Makes sense, right? Completely. So why here? Why do we choose Florida? Well, we didn't always launch from here. Originally, we started launching from this place called White Sands, New Mexico. Now, if you know much about the American Southwest, it's landlocked. There's a lot of desert. So if a rocket goes off course, we have a problem on our hands. That's what happened one day, guys. A rocket went rogue. Went over El Paso, Texas, over the Mexican border, crash landed, huge crater, bodies everywhere. Luckily, it landed in the cemetery. We really dodged a bullet on that one. But the Mexican government told us what to do with our rocket, so we had to find a new place to go, and yes, guys, alligator.
And another one. Who wants to go swimming?
I'm really starting to hate alligators, honestly. It's getting to that point, just because they interrupt my tour every day. You know, there's times I'll be sitting in front of 39A. The most famous launch pad in the entire world. But there's an alligator in a retention pond in front of it, and no one cares about the launch pad, they just care about the alligator. Always. Alright, so why did we move here? Number one, the weather. Who's from someplace cold? Right, who's from someplace cold? A bad day here is better than a good day most any other place. Reason number two, this used to be a small town called Orsino. It was really cheap and easy to buy up all the land and politely ask everyone to move. The third reason, that big body of water, the Atlantic Ocean, fish don't have Congress to complain to if you drop rocket parts on them. Now, the final reason is interesting. It's not a joke at all. We actually get a boost on our rockets by launching from Florida, another gator, and another gator. Possible harvest today. Now, how does this work? Now, imagine you're at the North Pole with Santa Claus. Now, take a few steps off to the side of the North Pole and walk around the Earth once. Since you're near the pole, you don't have to go very fast or go very far to go around once. Now, slide down to the equator where the Earth is a lot wider. To go around in the same amount of time, you have to go a lot faster, right? So therefore, the closer you are to the equator, the more boost you get on your rockets, the faster the Earth is moving. We get a 900 mile per hour boost on our rockets by launching from Florida. The same reason the Europeans launch from South America, they get a 1,000 mile per hour boost by launching from right on the equator. Huh, wow. Now, out to the left side of the bus. You guys are going to be a good group, I can already tell. Yesterday, not many people laughed at my jokes. It was a rough day. On the left side of the bus, that is our most iconic building on property. That is the Vehicle Assembly Building. That is the world's largest one-story building. It is one floor, 525 feet, or about 160 meters tall. Now that building is deceptively large. It's about 5 miles away from us right now. Now we will be headed out there in a little bit. We'll get some really good close-up pictures after our first stop. Now coming up on the left side, see this small white building with the satellite dish? This is our communication center. Now this is not the only place we launch rockets. We launch rockets from California, Virginia, New Mexico still, French Guiana, South America, and of course Mission Control, that's in Houston. That building is how we keep in touch with all of them. Over here on the right side, see this big brown building? It's called the Central Instrumentation Facility. All you need to know is we had a big building to house the Apollo computers back when they were the size of refrigerators and less powerful than the cell phone in your pocket. Now coming up here on the right side is our new data center. Now, see that small tan building? It's got no windows, kind of on the other side of the road. Yeah. See that guy? That small building, no windows? That's the new one. These two buildings serve the same purpose. That new one is a fraction of the size and has thousands, if not millions of times the computing power. I just want you guys to understand how far we've come in 50 years. Normally, if it wasn't for construction, we go through there. I just gotta point it out real quick. Now, see this next building with no first floor windows. Keep that in mind, no first floor windows. This is NASA headquarters for Kennedy Space Center. Our director, Bob Cabana, has that top center office. Next door, they're building another building, the new headquarters building. The old one was built in the Cold War. It's not up to health code. It's actually cheaper and more efficient to knock the old one down and build a new one next door. Now, real quick, any ideas why no first floor windows? It was the Cold War, guys. People were worried about spies. We did not want people looking inside our first floor windows to steal our moon secrets. Good thing they did not know about ladders. Exactly. Now, on our right, this is Neil Armstrong operations and checkout. Informally, it's known as the Holiday Inn for astronauts. Bless you, I can tell you're about to sneeze. Preemptive strike, all right. Now, we'll actually quarantine the astronauts up on the 3rd floor about a week before launch, so they don't get sick while they're in space. We've seen Apollo 13, you guys see that movie? Everyone dope actually got sick. We don't want that happening in real life because it has happened before. Now, this final building here on the right, this is the Space Station Processing Facility. Sounds like exactly what it does. It's the facility for processing all the parts of the space station. Hubble came through that building. All the modules of the space station that went up on a shuttle came through here first. Another gator. Even still to this day, experiments that go up to the ISS, if it leaves from Kennedy Space Center or Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, they will more than likely be processed inside that building first. Yeah, I got the cleanup crew over here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, they're waiting for something to come out the other side. Now, it's fun. If you guys haven't lived until you see 50 people stand on one side of a bus, take a picture of an alligator. It usually happens every day. There's another one. Another one. Another one. Alright, they're all over the place today. It's alligator weather. I don't know if you guys do that. This is prime alligator weather. Weather Channel didn't tell you that this morning? Oh well, sorry guys. Alright, so let's talk about the space station again for just a moment. We started building it in 1998. And we've had people on board every day since the year 2000. So that means all those children born after the year 2000 have never went a day in their life without someone living in space. Because for the last 16 years, we've had people permanently living on board the space station, working around the clock to make life better here on Earth. Isn't that amazing? It's not fiction, it's fact, science. It's not science fiction. We've had people on board the space station long enough to have a driver's license. Think about that. Now in just a moment, we're going to see a big body of water called the Banana River. And it's what separates Kennedy Space Center from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station down at the other end of the water. Now, both places launch rockets, but they're two completely separate places, so look at it this way. Kennedy Space Center is civilian, think of apples. The Air Force Station is military, think of oranges. So apples and oranges divided by a banana, the Banana River. Thank you. Yep. That is Doug, I'd say that was the most anyone's laughed at that in a real long time. This is also the smallest group I've had in a real long time. All right. The rest of you drop your expectations, all right? Basically, my bus tours are stand-up with science facts thrown at you, if you didn't notice. Now, on the left side of the bus, you're going to see 3 of our active launch pads over on the Air Force Station side. Now, you see that big, tall, white building? And just to the left of it, you see those 4 skinny towers. It looks like 2 more towers underneath it. Now, that big white building is where they build the rockets for Pad 41. And of course, everything next to it is Pad 41. That's where United Launch Alliance launches Atlas V rockets. Once again, Lockheed Martin and Boeing. In the future, Boeing will be launching their Starliner capsule from there when they bring NASA astronauts up to the space station for us, hopefully by 2019. Now, we have another building over here. Before I talk about that, anywhere you see those tall, skinny towers, those are lightning towers or lightning arresters. That means there's a launch pad in the middle, all right? Now, as we go over this bridge, you can see that building with the American flag. Behind it, you'll see a few more of those skinny towers start to come out from behind it. There's 1, 2, 3, and number 4. That is Launch Complex 40. That is SpaceX, but people will not go up from that pad. That is a resupply pad. So that means experiments, food, water, spacesuits, stuff going up to the space station, or satellites will leave from that pad, not people. That is also where the anomaly occurred in September. Can't say rocket blew up. So that's where the anomaly occurred in September. Now we have one last launch complex to share with you guys. Wow, launch complex. Now, to the left side of the bus, see that big building there? It's white up top and black at the bottom with the 2 towers around it. It's going to be on the left side, and once we make our turn, it'll be in the front and then the right side of the bus. Now that is Launch Complex number 37. United Launch Alliance once again. Lockheed Martin and Boeing launches Delta IV rockets from here. Orion, the first time we flew an Orion space capsule was off this pad as well. Now, I can tell you about the rockets all day, but what's so cool about this pad? Well, see that big building? That big tall building is standing on the launch pad. We'll actually stand the rocket up inside the building, put the payload on top, and wait to launch the rocket. But if the building is on the launch pad, how do we launch the rocket? Oh, it doesn't open. The entire building moves the length of a football field using a set of rails. Takes between 2 and 3 minutes, and then they launch the rocket. Imagine that, the whole building, that entire giant building, moves side to side the length of a football field using a set of train rails. Takes about 2 minutes, and then they launch. All right, guys, so this is going to be our first stop. We're actually going to get off the bus here. We're not going off-roading, don't worry. We'll get off the bus at the bleachers, the grandstands up here. Now, a couple ground rules. Please stay off the grass. The reason, fire ants. We just don't want anyone getting bit. It's weird that when we have 1,000 people out here for a launch, we don't have fire ants, but we're not having my tours, we do. So, go figure that one out. Now, if you do get through the grass, please stay away from the water, because if the fire ants don't get you, those alligators will. We have 5,000 to 6,000 here on property, and we actually sent someone out to go count them recently, but he hasn't come back yet, so hopefully he's doing all right. But he's a good dude. All right, so feel free to leave your stuff on the bus. We're going to get off. Look at pad 41. Look to the left of me. You see that white water tower? That is pad 39A. It's where every man left that walks, every man that walked on the moon. There we go. Now, January, my parents were down here once again. SpaceX was talking about launching off of 39A for the very first time. We did that again. We called and they said, sorry guys, they're launching from California. Do you want some tickets? And we said, I live in Florida. That's way too far to go. But it worked. It worked 17 years ago and it worked just a few months ago. All you guys got to do is call an app. We're on vacation. It's nice if you're from Florida, but the pass is good until it flies. It's not if it gets scrubbed, you gotta try again. It's good until it flies. So keep that in mind, guys. You can come here, or the Banana Creek viewing area over on the other side of the water, next to the Saturn V Center. And that's where all the astronaut launches from. So keep that in mind, guys. Just gotta call. If someone says, never heard of that program, we don't do that anymore, something like that, I've heard that a few times, just ask to talk to someone else. I guarantee you still. Like I say, if you're not from here, I had someone who was from Europe. I don't remember which country, but a few months ago he was down here for the OSIRIS-REx mission. Now, it's a 7-year mission. We're sending a probe out to an asteroid. We're going to map the asteroid, take a sample, and bring it back to Earth. He came down for that and got to pick his viewing area and everything. So keep that in mind, guys. Free. It works in California too, and I heard Virginia. So if you're from the West Coast, down by Edwards, they do have rocket launches. Yes.
Question.
Sure.
The movie Hidden Figures.
The movie Hidden Figures, yes.
Where was it here or?
It was not filmed here. It was all filmed.
No, not filmed.
Set. Where was it set?
No. Where did it? Was it the Houston Center or was it here?
Neither. Langley up in Washington. Langley Research Facility in Washington, D.C. It's right outside headquarters. Actually, I have a friend who just got hired there. He didn't bring me with him. But yeah, it was filmed up there. And at the same time, that's where a lot of that took place as well. That was one of their main. The question was Hidden Figures. Where did that actually happen? Langley Research Facility, Washington, outside Washington D.C. So we have a few of them. We have one in Huntsville, Alabama. We have one up there. We have a few all over the country. Back then, especially since it's closer to headquarters, taking place down here when they launched the rockets. Like to see how one scene in that movie, the scene where John Glenn asked one of the African American people women to check all the math. The reason the first 4 rockets blew up. There was only one left, and they said, "John, get on." So I don't care who you are, what color you are, all that stuff. I want whoever the best person is doing the math on that. So that part is 100% true. Yes, it's not because they just want to make good for the story. No, the first 4 rockets blew up, and they only had one left. So. All right, guys. So gorgeous day out here. All right. So we're gonna get back on the bus. We're gonna head back down the causeway. We're gonna go out towards the B&B. We're actually gonna drive around there a little bit. See some crawler transporters, some mobile launch platforms, where they keep the X-37B. You guys know what that is? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's an unmanned space shuttle over the military. Been in space for almost 2 years now. So we'll get to see the hangar. Then we'll head out by the launch pads, actually go right up to the fences of A and B, and we'll make our second stop over on the right, guys? We're just over about 50 miles over out here. A lot of ground cover. We drove it one day. All right. Also, to answer your question a little more, the question was, when I say process, to get stuff ready to go, what does that mean? It's a fancy word for we got everything ready to send up. That's really all it is. So we have to make sure everything was clean, make sure we got all the parts, or same thing with the experiments, make sure they got started or at least could survive the flight. I was telling this lady, imagine having a 1,000-piece puzzle, getting to space, and only having 998 pieces. That's why we process it first, or just make sure it's ready to fly. Of course, the lab mice we send up, they gotta have their little helmet strapped on and everything. In case there's a water landing, gotta put water wingings on them, just in case. No, we don't do any of that, I promise. That'd be a huge waste of money. Okay, good question. So this area right here, so personal watercraft, that's just like boats and stuff, or it's like the people come in and out of this water. All right, so this side of the water, no one is allowed in it, okay? The only time you'll see boats on this side, security or rocket parts. This is actually how we get our rocket parts in, if they're to bring it by air or by rail. It'll come in through Port Canaveral, go underneath this bridge to a small little, kind of looks like a lake called the turn basin, right in front of the vehicle assembly building. Now on this side of the water, granted down there you have your cruise ships, that sort of stuff, but up here is all unpowered boats. So the only way a person could be in this water, number one, they work here. So only if you work here. Now, you have to have an unpowered boat, so kayak, canoe, rowboat, something like that. That's the only way you're allowed inside this water. No one on this side. So you have to work here, but not powered, no one. This road, same thing, unless you work here. That first security shack we went through, about 6-7 miles away from here, that's the closest civilians can get, unless you have one of these ID badges. All right. Now, when it comes to the launch, like getting out here, that pass will get you out here. All right, so let's briefly talk about those launch pads again. When I said all three of them, I didn't mention NASA, correct? No, I didn't at all, because NASA doesn't really have anything to do with those launch pads. Maybe something going up on the rocket and the safety regulations, but other than that, those are all private companies that lease stuff from the military. So when 2011 came, we ended the shuttle program. We needed to figure out how to get our astronauts to space. So we hired the Russians. And it cost us $80 million per person per seat round trip. Lousy snacks, no leg room, seen the movie 1,000 times, you know how that goes. So we had to find another way to do it. So NASA started 2 new programs. One is called Commercial Resupply, the other is called Commercial Crew. Commercial Resupply means NASA hired private companies like those to bring cargo or experiments up to the space station for us, just so we don't have to. Because we want to focus on deep space exploration. Now, the Commercial Crew program is the same thing, but instead of cargo, it's people. So we hired 2 companies, SpaceX and Boeing, to bring our astronauts. They will still be NASA astronauts, but they will be hitching a ride on a commercial rocket going up to the space station. SpaceX with their Falcon Heavy and the Crew Dragon capsule from 39A, and Boeing with their Starliner capsule off of Pad 41. And it's pretty special because we haven't launched people from the Air Force Station side since early Apollo. When we think of sending men to space, we think of Pad 39A and 39B. Coming soon next year, Pad 41, and then in the future, Pad 36 with Blue Origins sending tourists to space. Space tourism, that's coming soon. Now, you see that big white bay behind operations and checkout, that big white bay behind the building? That is actually where NASA is building the Orion space capsule. That is our new deep space capsule that will go on top of our newest rocket, Space Launch System. Space Launch System is the most powerful rocket man has ever made. Now, it is so powerful, look at it this way. The Saturn V rocket used to be the most powerful, and it could shake the windows in Orlando, 50 miles or 80 kilometers away. This new rocket is 10% more powerful. Look at a Saturn V rocket with 2 big white solid rocket boosters on the side, and that's basically what it's going to look like. So pretty amazing. Now that will be going off of Pad 39B. Hopefully the next test flight will be at the end of next year. There may be people on board, we don't know yet. So that's exciting. Now, as we're going past the industrial zone, as we went past headquarters, I like to share a story about something amazing sitting inside that lobby that people don't know exists. Now, there's a mission pouch sitting inside that lobby, and it actually went to the lunar surface the very first time we went to the moon on Apollo 11. And it's signed by all 3 Apollo 11 astronauts. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and not Wally Schirra. At least you got an Apollo era astronaut. Michael Collins, guys. Michael Collins is the real hero of Apollo 11 because he had to stay in the capsule while Buzz and Neil had fun on the surface. That's what I always say. Because I would have left them on the surface for making me stay in the capsule.
Yeah.
Now, it's signed by all 3 of them, and it's personalized to someone. It's personalized to the Mars One team. So that means this mission patch that went to the lunar surface the very first time we went to the moon will also go to the Martian surface the very first time we go to Mars. How cool is that? Now, inside that same lobby is the escape hatch of Columbia, the space shuttle we lost in 2003. And across the hall from that is actually a gift shop. Because all of these buildings have gift shops, Subways, and Sonny's barbecues. I'm not kidding. There's at least 5 Sonny's barbecues on NASA property. not including the food trucks. Yep. When I used to smoke, it's $3 a pack. It was awesome. Yeah. Get in the gift shop. So, all right. Now, real quick, guys, can you do me a favor? Look to the left. All right. Now, do me a favor. Look to the right. I'm sorry, but this is what Florida actually looks like. It's not all beaches and theme parks and condos. This isn't. The reason I say that, we are the second largest wildlife refuge in Florida. Only the Everglades is larger than Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. Why am I still playing with this Budweiser cap I found on the ground? So weird. We have 500 different species of animals. Bull shark, dolphin, of course alligators. We have little feral hogs, black panther, deer, bear, coyotes, about 8,000 to 9,000 humans, and of course the American bald eagle. That one's my favorite. Now in a moment, we're going to get to see the largest bald eagle's nest on property. It weighs between 7 and 800 pounds and is the size of a king-size mattress. It has been here longer than the Space Center. Left side of the bus, guys, coming up on the left. Is there an eagle up there today?
Where is it?
Oh, never mind, just a shadow. Sorry, guys. Left side, we're going past it right now. See that tallest tree in the second row with that big brown mass in the middle? Big brown basket? That is our bald eagle's nest. Now, you will get a chance to see it on the way back from the Saturn V Center. I like to show it on the way out just in case we get to see an eagle. Now, the other day, an eagle flew by the bus and landed in the nest. I got to see the eagle has landed. And it was like the best day of my life. Everyone laughed. All right. Now, we're going to watch a video about the vehicle assembly building. I'll see you guys once we get out there.
Just ahead is one of the world's largest buildings by volume, the Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB. It was built for the Apollo.
It would just blew the airbrushes around. Someone had to go up there and hand paint it themselves. Imagine that. Now the stars on the side of the flag are 6 feet from point to point, about 2 meters. If you don't believe me, at our final stop, when we get off the bus, there's a section of the flag we call stand it and see how big those stars really are. Now, that blue field is the size of an NBA basketball court. Imagine that. And you could drive this bus up and down those red and white stripes. Now, the doors on the side of the VAB are the world's tallest doors. 456 feet, about 130 meters tall. Back during the Saturn V days, the moon rocket days, you only had about 5 feet of clearance between the top of the door and the top of the rocket. So basically, the clearance to get out of the building is a little white star. Next door to the VAB, you'll see these 2 buildings with blue doors with blue stripes around the top. Those are orbiter processing facilities, or OPFs, where we used to keep the space shuttles in between launches. Now, as we go by the building, I want you to look back, and you're going to see a big wide door with a little slit above the door and a number 2. Okay, look back, guys. See that number 2? That number 2, that slit, is where the tail of the space shuttle would fit perfectly inside that building. The reason I have to say it now is because we're probably about to see an alligator, and everyone's going to stop listening to what I have to say. See, right there, look at that one, it's huge. There's another one. There's another one. There's another gator. This ain't my first rodeo. Exactly. All right. This is a big one on the other side today? No, not today. All right. That's great. There's like 5 of them right through here. All right. Ooh, a wild liquor bottle. So, once again, we look at the orbiter building. See that big wide door across the side? That's how wide the wings of the space shuttle were. And of course, that little slit above the door so we can get it inside the building. It's where we would refurbish them in between launches. Now, can anyone read that mission patch? A friend of the SpaceX here is the only one that knows what that is. It's the X-37B.
Yeah.
It's a secret military space shuttle. No people. And it's been in space for about 2 years. It's so secret, it has a Wikipedia page. Now, on our right side, see that big gray thing with the tank tracks? That is our crawler transporter. But don't worry about getting a good picture of that one, because we have another one out on the crawler way we'll go right up to. You'll get to see it with a platform on top. Now imagine driving that crawler underneath this mobile launch platform. Now this one here was used for the shuttle base. There's two ways you can tell. Number one, it's pretty flat on top, no tower. Way number two, the holes underneath. The hole in the front was for the main engine to the space shuttle. The two in the back are for the white solid rocket boosters. Obviously we needed holes, so we didn't melt the platforms. So the entire crawler would go underneath the platform, lift up 6 feet using hydraulics. Then in one giant piece would move the platform and crawler inside the VAB where we would build the rocket on top. Imagine that. Ooh, hurricane damage. Interesting. I wish that's how clean my room was as a kid. Just put traffic cones around stuff and say, Mom, I'm done. It doesn't work that way. Alright. Thank you guys. You're laughing at all my jokes. I really appreciate that. It's been a rough week. Thank you guys. Alright, it's my Friday. Now, you see this new mobile launch platform? This is a brand new one. Originally it was built for Constellation, the program that never really happened. We had one test flight of a rocket, we crash landed on the moon, and then we stopped the program. That's literally the entire Constellation program in a nutshell. But this one here is being built for Space Launch System. And I'm sure you guys saw when that sign said, the journey to Mars begins here. So that means this mobile launch platform will be used for Space Launch System when we go to the moon, put a person on an asteroid, and one day go to Mars. We'll build the SLS on top of this platform and roll it out to 39B, and then we'll head to space. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a big difference between these two platforms. Can anyone guess what it is? Yeah, it's the tower on top. It's the 300-foot tall structure on top. Yeah. There's some, I've had tours that couldn't answer that question. It's like, yes, it's the giant thing on top. So how come that platform has it and the other one does not? Well, some of you may remember during the Saturn V days, the moon days, Apollo, there was a big red tower that would head out to the head out with the rocket out to the pad. So why doesn't the other one have it? Well, this one does. Well, during the shuttle program, we realized, go ahead, take pictures, the doors are open. Now, during the shuttle days, we realized it would have been too heavy to bring the shuttle, the platform, the crawler, and the tower out in one giant piece. So we took the tower off of that platform, and instead, we attached it to 39A. So instead of bringing everything out in one piece, we just leave the tower at the launch pad. Does that make sense? Or at least enough sense for now? When we get to our next stop, we can see everything from a distance. I'll do a much better job. Now, pretty tight turn to get the crawler inside the building, right? So how do we do that? Well, we'll actually bring the crawler and the platform to a stop right around here. And then we get out. And we walk to the driver cab on the other side. Because if we need to put in reverse, we don't use reverse. It only moves forward and other forward. Kind of like the San Francisco trolley car. So if you have to go the other direction, you get in the cab on the other side and drive it inside the building. We do use reverse just to line everything up on the pad. Next door to the VAB is the Launch Control Center. That's where the launch director is, where they press the button, do the countdown. There's 4 firing rooms. Number 1 is closest to the VAB. That's where we controlled Apollo and early space shuttle. Number 2, just to the left of it, is where Billy Bob Thornton controlled all the Armageddon launches. Firing room number 4 is where we control the last 21 shuttle launches, and that's actually where we give tours. We do have a launch control center tour. If you guys would like to join us at some point, I think we do have one left today at 1:20. We haven't had enough of these bus tours. All right. So we are now on the 3-mile journey. 3-mile journey out to pad 39A. So why so far? Well, a group of engineers decided if the rocket exploded on the pad, it would be like a hydrogen bomb going off. We'd have a ball of flame and debris up to 3 miles away. So therefore, we built everything 3.5 miles away. So you were thinking. Now, 3 miles, it's not a sprinter, it's a crawler that moves at half of 1 mile per hour. So as you can tell, it takes a long time to get it out to the pad. Closer to about 7 hours to get it out to pad 39A. The reason it would take a little longer, you would have to stop to cool down the electric motors every once in a while, and of course use your brakes. 8-hour day, 2 15s to the 30. That's just how it is. Now, while walking out, they would actually walk with the rocket. Imagine that's your job, to walk and escort the rocket out to the pad. But one of them had a very important job. Tortoise duty. Their job to was to pick up gopher tortoises and move them out of the way. But if they're headed in the same direction as the rocket, you just let it go, and then it's going to outrun the rocket. For the rest of you, get it? Turtle, outrun a rocket? Yeah? No? Alright. I had a guy recently who could have been Rodney Dangerfield's twin on my bus, and I said, does anyone ever tell you look like Rodney Dangerfield? And all he says, I get no respect. It was perfect. It was perfect. It also just happened to be the worst bus tour I've ever had. Because he was the only one that laughed at anything. It was full. Oh well. Can't win them all, guys. Except for today. You guys have been a good group. I've actually really enjoyed this. Thank you, guys. Alright, no, thank you. Alright, you paid extra. I didn't. Now, in just a moment, we're coming up on another mobile launch platform. But this one is on top of a crawler transporter. Now, use your imagination. Now, look at those 2 bunny ears on the platform. And imagine the space shuttle standing up behind those bunny ears with the main engines and the tail sticking in between them. Essentially, the tail of the space shuttle would be pointing out at us right now. Does that make sense? Now, see that one driver cab? You need to go to the other side. You follow that yellow railing around to the other side. Now, of course, guys, it's a hybrid. Don't worry. Not a Prius hybrid, diesel electric. Kind of like a locomotive. The diesel generators power the electric motors. You can see those gray electric motors in between those sets of tracks. Now, there's 8 tracks, 57 sections in each track. And each section weighs 2,000 pounds. So 8 times 57 times 2,000 equals it's very, very, very heavy. Now, when I give the Launch Control Center tours, I always tell this joke to a little kid. So we have one of those little cleats. You can see how big they are. You can see one of them sitting right there. It's all rusted out. Now, I always go up to a kid and I'm like, hey, how can you tell this weighs 2,000 pounds? Like, well, I don't know. Because it takes me both hands to pick it up. Kind of like how, if you see my beach ball, it's about this big. Like one of those jokes. All right. Never mind. All right. You thought that joke was bad? Wait for this next one. Once you hit rock bottom, you can only go up, right? Exactly. Now, how can you tell that this crawler was built in the 60s?
It's gray.
Not because it's gray. Think outside the box. How many tracks does it have? It has 8 tracks. Yep. And one day I had this girl, she was the only person that ever hysterically laughed at it. She was like 20. I'm like, how do you know what that is? You know? I mean, I grew up with an 8-track tape player and a phonograph in my room. Record player to the rest of you.
Finally
I got
getting
hand-me-downs as one of those kids. My dad had a speed shop, so I grew up like an 8-track cassette player, record player, all that good stuff. And my brother made me throw it out before I moved for it. Imagine how much that'd be worth now. Does it actually work still?
Yeah.
Yep. My brother's coming in today. I haven't seen him since September. So that'll be cool to see him. I miss my brother. So that's the only part. I'm from Massachusetts. I live about 1,100 miles from here. So family's always fun. And they'll spoil me because I'm the baby. So that's always nice too. I'm the youngest. Now, out in front of us, you'll see the SpaceX hangar. Now, over here, this is 39A, the most famous launch pad in the entire world. You want to put him on the left side so you can see a little better. You guys want to go over to the left side so you can see a little better, so he can. Now, every single man that set foot on the moon left from this pad. 82 space shuttles and a set of Transformers in Transformers 3. That was filmed on this pad. All right, what are they building in here? This is like my favorite hangar of all time. They basically took a giant tent and put it on top of storage containers. Oh, we have a hangar. What is in here? I don't know what that is. That looks. Oh, is that part of a strong back? Oh. I was gonna say, is that the strong back for 40 though? Okay, so we have a couple theories on what that might be. So that will be either number 1, one of the crew access arms for this pad, or the new strong back crane for pad 40. And that's where we have the anomaly. Yes, that is a SpaceX food truck. They do not have a cafeteria, so they have a food truck. And they get free lunch, right? But they work 16-hour days. But hey guys, it's free lunch, right? That's what I'm saying. All right. Now that SpaceX building is where they'll build the rockets. It's called the Horizontal Integration Facility. They build their rockets laying down inside that building. That's all that means. The VAB is a vertical integration facility because they build them standing up. Now you see that big white crane at the top of the pad? That's called the strong back crane. That's how we get the rockets in and out of this building. The strong back crane will go all the way down the hill and inside the hangar. They'll put the rocket on top and then roll it back to the top of the hill where it stands the rocket up. And then it stands with it, until it launches. Now that big, tall, gray tower on the pad serves the same purpose as that big, tall tower on top of the platform next to the VAB. Like I said before, this tall tower used to be on top of one of the flat mobile launch platforms. We took it off and it passed it to the pad instead. And yes, at the very top is where that toilet was I was telling you guys about. And guess what? There's no doors. You gotta go, you gotta go. Now, you're not gonna believe this, but we're actually about a half mile away from the center of the pad. Imagine that, we're a half of a mile away from the center of the pad. That's about 0.8 kilometers. Now, you don't realize how big things are out here because everything's so big. You know, you have nothing to really scale it to. But even if you look towards the top of the hill, you can see those big, what's that? It looks like a big Chevy truck up there. Got some 14-passenger vans, all that stuff. Stuff that's taller than we are. And it looks like a little Matchbox car sitting up there. All right, we all set, guys? All right, let's do it, Doug. Thank you. Doug's the man.
So if the VAB does rockets, but then you were saying that they're also building Orion, so there's different places where they will build. It's not just the VAB that.
All right, so the way it works, so the VAB is for NASA rockets. So before SpaceX was here, the VAB was used for 39A and 39B. So when we build Space Launch System to go off of 39B, it still will be built inside the VAB. We gave SpaceX the opportunity to use the VAB, and they said, no thank you, we'll build our own. Other ones over on the Air Force Station side usually build their rockets pretty close to the launch pad in a building right next to it. So like the VAB was just for our rockets because they were so big. I think the Saturn V was like a hydrogen bomb going off essentially. So this is a weird place. At NASA, we only technically have 2 launch pads, and it's only really one launch complex. All of it's 39. So that's with the Launch Control Center. The VAB, it's all for just 39. But right now, SpaceX, like I said, is doing their own thing, so we're only going to use it basically for 39B. And even over there, like next to 41, that big white building right next to it, that's just where they build their rockets over there. They usually have something pretty close to the pad. But then again, all the other places, most of the other rockets are nowhere near as powerful as the shuttle was, as the new Space Launch System, same thing with Saturn V, so they can get away with being closer. Hope that answered your question. All right. I can talk for days. You don't even need to give me a question, I'll just start talking. One of those. That's why this is a good job for me. Best job I've ever had. How many places can you get paid to do this? All right? Not many. All right. Now we're going to make a brief stop up here for just a moment. And we're going to get another good view of pad 39A. Like this will be a break in the brush just for you guys. Came out with here with a weed whacker this morning and took it all out. Here you go. There it is, guys. Great view of the launch pad. Now that big white ball is a gas tank. It's where we keep the liquid hydrogen. On the complete other side of the pad is a giant white ball that says liquid oxygen. Those are the 2 rocket fuels we use, and obviously we want to keep them as far apart as we can. For those of you wondering why, because they'll explode if they touch each other. That's not good. But each of them can hold about 500,000 gallons of rocket fuel.
So you said you're paying $8 million for the Russians. How much will you pay for the private ones?
All right, so the private ones, we're not exactly paying for them. It's kind of, yeah, we're not exactly, granted, there's still some, let me reword this, let me try again. So, especially being out here, SpaceX, Boeing, since they're doing government programs, they are getting government assistance, but at the same time, their job is to bring our astronauts to space for us. So we're not sitting here paying a flat fee every time, and it's not going to be, in the end of the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be anywhere near the $80 million. If we were to do it ourselves, a rocket like the SpaceX Falcon 9 or something like that, that's about $40 million to launch. I think if we put 3 people on there, $40 million to launch a rocket, whether it's $40, $50 million, it's a lot cheaper than $80 million for one. So, granted, I'm sure they're getting tax breaks, that kind of thing, but at the same time, they actually pay us $100,000 a month to use this pad. So the way I look at it, it's just one big circle and all clean in the end. You know what I mean? I'm sure eventually they will get that $100,000 back in the form of payment for astronauts or assistants. So it's kind of a clean slate. That makes sense. So the Russian church is charging a lot because there's literally no other way for us to get there. Whereas if we hire these companies, it'll probably cut the cost in half. So, just yeah, it's only about 40-50 million to launch one of these rockets. Only 40 to 50 million to launch one of these rockets.
60 actually base price.
Excuse me?
60 million is base price for Falcon 9.
Okay, 60 million, but yeah, still 60 million is still a lot better than, because not only that, but you can also send up experiments, not just people, you can send experiments up, you can send other stuff to stay in orbit, maybe send a little probe up with it, a lot more flexibility on what they can do. All right. We're rebels without a cause. Yes, that was a stop sign. All right. So we're about to be at our second stop. All right. Now we're gonna get off the bus here. We'll take some really good pictures of these pads. Behind us is 39A. In front of us is actually 39B. And I'll explain to you in a moment why they look so different. Now, this is a remote camera location. Normally on top of the hill would be a big white trailer about 30 feet long with kind of looks like an observatory hood. You know the big telescope domes? You have the big dome, the hood opens, the camera or telescope comes out. Yes, that's my camera motion. That would sit up here and track the launches. They say the zoom on the camera was so good that if I was standing in the middle of 39A, a mile and a half away, they could read the name of my ID badge.
wow.
Now, that bunker at the top of the hill is for generators to power the high-speed cameras. Before we had the power station out here, we had to power our cameras with generators, but left alone, the vibrations would break the rocket every time, so we built a bunker around it. Now, guys, this is that porta potty stop everyone's been raving about. I know we're here. They're in front of the bus. Please use those. They're clean, I promise. We pump them once a week. Be happy it's not August. That's all I'm going to say. Now, please stay inside the fenced area. Only walk up the stairs. We'll stay up top. Great view of the ocean up top, and like I said, I'll explain the stuff out here. This little white thing is called a field mill. The reason I'm telling you this now is I'm very bad at mentioning it on the way out, and I'm very good at, remember that thing back there. So that's called a field mill. It is used to measure static electricity in the air. We have a lot of lightning around here. All right, guys, we'll be up top for a little bit. Some great pictures up here.
They said they put a camera up here. I'm sure
Falcon Heavy is 3 Falcon 9s put together side by side. 9 times 3 means 27 engines on the bottom. But as you heard, SpaceX hopes to have the first test flight lane this summer. We'll have to wait and see. Directly ahead of us, you see the three blinking lightning towers of the 39B. It used to look like A, but several years ago we took it back to Queen Pad, which means anybody, government or commercial, can use Pad B for rigging out their own custom platform tower. Pad 39C is within the fence of B, so it's a concrete slab. Now, if you look over here to the left, you see the new gray platform and tower for Space Launch System. This is not even the camera angle for that. When we leave here, we're going to head down the road and come back, so both sides of the bus will have a better angle. And then we end the tour by going up on the road. So we're going to drive right past it just before the end of the tour. Earlier in the video, you saw one of the two crawlers that go back to the 1960s. We still have both of them. You'll see them when we leave here. One is parked halfway down to Pad A, and the other one just finished a 4-year upgrade for a Space Launch System. It's parked around the corner as well, and you'll see it just before the end of the tour. So the way all of that is going to work is that sometime next year, the upgraded crawler will come over again underneath that platform, pick it up off the pedestals, bring it into VAD, we'll assemble a new rocket on top of it, and the crawler will bring down the crawler to launch it off at D. Talk more about that when we're out at D. The room we're in right now is called the Operations Manager Room. It's a very boring name, so everybody calls it the bubble. This is where the people who are on launch day who supervise the countdown. Called the Mission Management Team. They were comprised of executives from the NASA centers involved in the Space Shuttle program. Of course, Kennedy Space Center here in Florida, the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and the Stennis Center in Mississippi. Their job was to supervise the countdown. At T-minus 9 minutes, we had a planned hold. So at that point, these people did their final review, gave their blessing, and it resumed at T-minus 9 minutes. Common question we're asked is, what is the difference between here and Houston? We are launch control. Houston is mission control. All we do is launch the rockets. Once the rocket clears the tower, everybody down here stands up and looks down the road with you. Houston is mission control. All the missions are planned in Houston. The astronauts live and train in Houston. So Eugenie was wrong. Tony Nelson did not like Cocoa Beach. Houston. The only time we would see the astronauts before a launch, they would fly out a few weeks before launch and do a dress rehearsal, and they go back to Houston, come back here about 3 or 4 days before launch, go to quarantine. On launch day, we took them out from the launch pad. Once they cleared the tower, we're done. At that point, we went to Houston all the way to Orlando. Today's International Space Station being a 24-hour-a-day operation, and mission control is in Houston. So we said we have 4 firing units here. The VAB next door has 4 high bays. The high base is a giant garage for assembling the rocket with open gray doors. The 4 high bays are 4 firing units. That's not a coincidence. When they designed all of this in the early 1960s, they did not know how much capacity they were going to need. So they guessed they might be doing up to 4 rockets at a time. Hence 4 high bays and 4 firing units. But as they got later into the 1960s, they realized they would never need that kind of a capacity. So over the VAB, high bay number 4 was never finished. It's always been used for storage. This room was never finished either. It was always a conference room up until the time of the Columbia accident, February 1st, 2003. When the launch director, Mike Leinbach, realized he would not be flying for a while, he decided to use that time to remodel this room to reflect his philosophy. So this was used for the last 21 shuttle flights, starting in 2006 to the end of the program. Those are the logos you see up on the wall. He wanted it to go from the general to the specific. So up here at the top are the people in charge. The second console from our side is the launch director, Mike Leinbach. To his left, the payload manager, responsible for what it is we send into space. Mike's right is his assistant, and all the way at the end is the public affairs officer. That's the person you hear on TV on launch day say 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Second level, you see directors. Third level, you see managers. In the old days, big Porsches with the old consoles. They were grouped by areas of responsibility, so each group had its own private radio channel. There was also one master channel. So if you had a problem, you go onto that and say, hold, and everything would stop. Now, we said in the old days we had a big red button somebody was pushing to launch the rockets. But by the time we got to the Apollo era, it simply became too complicated for a human being to do. So starting with Apollo, since then we, and today pretty much everybody on planet Earth, now use computers to launch the rockets. So we no longer have a big red button we use to launch the rockets. But we do have a small green button we can use to pretend to launch the shuttle. So I'm going to ask if anybody underneath the age of 18 would like to volunteer to step forward to push the button and launch the shuttle. Parents are encouraged to push and shove. All right, come on forward. So you know how countdown works. 3, 2, 1, and when I say 0, you just push the button. You ready? So we're going to start the countdown. 1,999,000. 3, 2, 1, and 0. Thank you. Both of these are the same. This is the final launch of the shuttle, STS-135 with the lands. Down the road at 39A, July 2001.
Computers has occurred. So rocket booster nozzle steward check and work. Firing chain is armed. Go for main engine start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
They're called gopher tortoises. So gopher tortoises, they like to burrow a lot of holes, as you can tell, and then just kind of move on. We call them the landlords around here. Especially during a launch, people ask what happens to all the animals. Aquatic animals will sink to the bottom of the water. A lot of other animals will go in old gopher tortoise burrows as like a natural bunker. We also have this thing called an aviary deterrent system, also known as a bird alarm to most people. Why couldn't we just say that? I don't know. But there is literally a button on someone's desk inside the launch control center that says aviary deterrent system. they press that button a few hours beforehand, sends a high-pitched frequency out, security will go out, shoo animals away. We've never found a bunch of animals around the pad after a launch. So it's got to be working. All right. Now, once again, I proved I am terrible with the field mill, so I'm glad I told you guys. So, there's a reason we need those field mills. Because we've had rockets struck by lightning before. Apollo 12 didn't get struck once, it got struck by lightning twice. Start off all the onboard computers, all the lights, nothing worked. Flames coming out, but you can't control any of it. They had 90 seconds to figure out what they're going to do, or they had to abort the launch. So let's fast forward to today. What do you do when your internet doesn't work?
Reboot.
Exactly, you reboot, turn it off, turn it back on. That's how they fixed Apollo 12. Imagine how scary that must have been. You're in a rocket, in the air. They said, hey guys, turn it off, count to 10, and hope it comes back on. Everything came back up, and we went to the moon for the second time. True story. Could not make that up. Now, another weather-related note, sadly, Challenger was the very first shuttle to leave off of Pad 39B in 1986. Long story short, like I said, weather-related as well. Very cold the night before, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. It was freezing. Now, because of the cold, the big O-rings between the sections of the white solid rocket boosters didn't expand like they were supposed to. Flame escaped out the side, and we lost our first space shuttle. Much happier note, John Glenn, 1998, became the oldest human in space from this pad right here. He was 77 years old when he went up on Discovery. Imagine that, being 77 years old and being in good enough shape to go to space. I hope to be around at 77, let alone in good enough shape to go to space. Now, the one thing I always think about, how great his back and knees must have felt. Think about that. You're weightless, no compression, relieve all that back pressure. Now, the reason I say that, I'm an athlete turned mathlete. I was actually the leading scorer in basketball 2 years in a row in Massachusetts, averaged about 25 points a game. Had my ankle reconstructed when I was 17, fractured a vertebrae at 18, and then I decided to retire and move to Florida. That's why I want to go to space, just to float around and feel better. Exactly. From about here down, I'm 60. It feels terrible. All right, alligator, guys, alligators, big one. Now, ooh, 2 of them. Now, 3 of them. Wow, look at the one on the far bank. Look how big that was on the far bank. Wow, there's 4 of them out here. On the far bank by the metal sign, that one's got to be almost 10 feet long. It's not bigger. Now, funny story to go along with this building. It's a normal office building. One day, a lady's sitting in there and hears a big hissing sound. She goes outside and sees a 10-foot gator staring at her. Well, how to get in there? Well, these are just the world's nicest doors. They'll open for anyone. The rest of you, they're automatic doors. The gator walked up. It opened up. Oh, that's a person. Doug's like, John, it's a gator. What? No, it's a person. All right. So, gator walked up. Gator walked up, hit the sensor, doors open, walked inside, happens all the time. Now these things here on the left are called flame deflectors. Now think of a giant flame funnel. They would go underneath the rocket, the flame would come out of the rocket, and this would help get it into the flame trench. Then while it's in the flame trench, you'll get hit with a lot of water by this thing called sound suppression. And I forgot to talk about that with you guys. Now sound suppression means we need to make the rocket quieter. The reason was, during the shuttle program, the space shuttle would give off 180 decibels of sound. You don't need to know how much that is, just know it's enough to break the shuttle while it's on the path. It would light, shake, break, and go nowhere. So 15 seconds before launch, we would dump 400,000 gallons of water onto the platform, then to the flame trench, and that was enough water to safely bring the levels down to about 142. We aimed for 145. Turn acoustic energy into steam energy. So if you see the big plumes of smoke before a shuttle launch, it's not smoke. It's steam from the sound suppression. So the fire would go into the flame deflectors, into the trench, where it get turned into steam. Alright, let's talk about some movies real quick. There's a lot of movies that have been filmed here over the years. First things first, Armageddon. Love that movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Also, if you haven't seen it, where have you been? About 20 years old. Wow, that movie's almost 20 years old. 19 years old this year. Now, second best movie soundtrack of all time. Forrest Gump's #1. Let's be honest on that one. Can we agree? All right. Now, it's been filmed all over the Space Center. Filmed out of Pad 34, where we had the Apollo 1 fire, that scene that actually happened out there. In fact, the plaque from Armageddon is still sitting out there next to the actual Apollo 1 plaque. As I said, they filmed it in Firing Room 2. When Ben Affleck proposes to Liv Tyler, that's actually in the Saturn V Center. He was sitting in one of the F1 engines of the Saturn V rocket you'll see today. And the same place they're building Orion, that big bay behind operators and checkout, is where Ben Affleck saying, I'm leaving out a jet plane to Liv Tyler. All right. Another movie that's been filmed here was Contact with Jodie Foster. Great movie as well. Just please do not ask me to explain it to you. Very confusing. Another one that's been filmed here, you will not believe this. Sharknado 3. Who has not seen Sharknado? All right. Here's the actual plot line if you don't know what it is. These giant, what plot line, exactly. These giant storms go out into the ocean and they pick up sharks out of the ocean. Then they dump them on major cities in the form of tornadoes. In the first one, in Los Angeles, a woman got attacked by a shark while 1,000 feet in the air in a helicopter. The third one had sharks in space. Who's seen Friday the 13th 10? Jason X. Remember that one, guys? Jason, the guy with the hockey mask and the machete? The 10th one had Jason in space. Kind of like Sharknado 3. We had sharks in space. Yes. I was telling a couple people, I went to school for meteorology originally before I got my communications degree. My dream job still is to be a storm chaser. I love tornadoes. I was very misled by that movie. I thought it'd be about tornadoes and sharks. I'm like, great, this is gonna be awesome. I love both of them. I was very wrong. Very wrong. Now, one last good view of the crawler, guys. Want to take a picture of it? Oh, the sound suppression. You were asking me about that. Now, the water. You see those three things standing up there? Guys, see those kind of weird three, kind of like big street lights almost? That is, right, that's part of the sound suppression, right? Now, part of those 400,000 gallons of water would be actually attached. There's a hose somewhere on this. You attach it, it would come out those little things, and that would actually go right into the holes on the platforms. And that would actually help cool down everything. So that's where they are, right? Excuse me? You might be able to see it on the other side too. Do we have them on this side too? No, just on the other side? Alright. Alright. Now, one time, Bruce Willis paid $8 million to drive this crawler. Yep. Ron Howard is different as well. His reasons were different. Remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger used to drive the big H1 Humvees? Big Hummers? Ron Howard is quoted as saying he wanted to drive a bigger vehicle than Arnold Schwarzenegger could. He drove this one. That's a true story, Scout's honor. Now, last things last. I always want to talk about this movie. Space Cowboys was filmed here. Anyone seen Space Cowboys? If you haven't, great movie. All you need to know is the cast. Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones, James Garner, Donald Sutherland. What else do you need to know? Exactly. Great movie. Last movie I bought on VHS, Special Place on Earth. Now, when they were filming that movie, they're getting ready for it. They came here and studied as astronauts. They also went out to Johnson Space Center, but they didn't only study as astronauts, they studied as communicators like myself. I had a person take my bus tour that got a guided tour of Johnson Space Center from Tommy Lee Jones. So therefore, I like to keep myself in the same breath with those type of people. You know, Tommy Lee Jones, Clint Eastwood, John Ferentz. If you don't know that last one, hi guys, that's me. All right. Who's heard the myth that we get weather inside the VAB? Anyone heard that before? I'm sorry, sir, myth busted. Here's why. Number one, these are the world's tallest doors. If the doors are all the way open, a stray cloud will go inside. Happens all the time. I've been out here more than once where the clouds were so low you could not see the American flag or the NASA logo. So if the doors are open, clouds go inside. But what about the rain, right? What about the rainstorms? Florida has a lot of humidity. Humidity leads to condensation. When condensation builds 500 feet above you, especially if there's a stray cloud when it comes dripping down, you're going to think it's raining inside the building. I had a person one day ask me, well, isn't condensation and rain the same thing? And I politely asked them to get off my bus. I've had a few buses that did not laugh at that, and they did not think that was very funny, and I had to remind them it's a joke. I have probably about 50 or 60 jokes written for this tour, don't worry. No? Yeah, we're going straight. All right. Now, see this body of water here? It's called the turn basin. This actually connects to the Atlantic Ocean. It's how we get our rocket parts in if they're too big to bring in by air or by rail. The nitrogen person. That's what this thing is right here. I talked to someone, remember the nitrogen? This is where we keep it. All right. Now, the water, the barge will come in through Port Canal, roll up the Banana River, into the turn basin, to this little dock by the crane. Then we'll roll everything across the street. Over here by the American flag, we have our countdown clock. And of course, Media Row behind it, Reuters, CBS, USA Today, and NASA PR. Now, you can see the countdown clock looks like it's on, but that is not the original countdown clock. The original one is the same one you saw in front of the visitor complex today. It is the second most viewed clock in the entire world. Only Big Ben has been seen by more people. Alright guys, so this is going to be our final stop. I don't think I've ever hit this light red. No, and we're not going to start today. So, we're going to get over here in this little plaza just for us. Now, you see this big white thing on this flatbed? This big white thing, it's called a launch abort system. So this would go on top of the Orion space capsule on top of Space Launch System. And it's this little booster that will fire if there's an emergency and actually pull the capsule away from the rest of the rocket. Then drop the crew down to safety. This new one goes 0 to 500 miles per hour in 3 seconds. People ask how many G's is that, and I say, oh geez, that's a lot. All right, so this American flag is to scale the American flag up on the building. It's the bottom right corner of that blue field. We didn't have enough room to paint the entire flag. It's about 600 gallons from what I've heard to paint it. That little yellow tank is an armored personnel carrier. We didn't always use launch abort systems. Now, has anyone seen Men in Black 3? Alright. Well, those of you who have, the rest of you, we used to have to get out of our rocket, get in this big white basket, and zip line down to the ground. Then you would get out of your basket, inside your yellow tank, and drive away from the launch pad. A lot of moving parts, chances are they would not have made it. It was there to say we tried. Now that final thing in the parking lot, that's that swing arm I was telling you guys about. That is the actual swing arm from pad 39A. So every shuttle astronaut from John Young on STS-1 to the final crew of STS-135 walked across that swing arm before getting on their shuttle. Like I said, the reason it's still sitting there, and Osprey decided to put a nest on it a little over a year ago. And here it sits. Alright guys, we'll be on here for a little bit. If you want me to take your picture, that's not a problem. I'll be happy to do it for you. The first one's free. No problem guys, you can take all the pictures you want. Cafeteria. We have a saying around here, no lunch, no launch. Subway, yep, there's a Sunny's in there. Yeah, like I said, about 5 or 6 of them around here. Now, out at the front of the bus, see that blue building? That blue Boeing building? That is where Boeing is building the Starliner capsule. So when they bring our NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, just like SpaceX will, that's the capsule they'll be doing it with, off of an Atlas V rocket. On pad 41. Alright guys, so we have a treat for you guys. So normally we don't do this, we got a little extra time. So Doug and I are going to take you over to the shuttle landing facility. Now, normally we don't go out there, it's not part of the Explore Tour, but we got some time to kill. And why not? We've got a good group. So we're going to take you out there, we'll take you to the midpoint. Take you to the midpoint, and while we're out there, we'll get to see Inspiration. Now, Inspiration is the 7th space shuttle. 5 of them actually flew in space: Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Endeavour, and Atlantis. Then there was Enterprise, which was basically a drop dummy. We would practice landing with it, and Inspiration was for museums and space camp. It's a 1-to-1 scale model. It, like I said, it doesn't have all the tiles. It has a like people door on the side, that kind of stuff. But hey, it's pretty cool to see a full-size space shuttle sitting next to the runway. So we'll get to see that today. Another big gator. There he is. Another one. All right. So just take one last good look at that mobile launch platform. Just realize this: next time you see it, unless you come back and see me, we're going to be sending a person to the moon, put a person on an asteroid, and one day, of course, going to Mars. Now, when I talk about putting a person on an asteroid, there's a few reasons we want to do that. Number one, to obviously study an asteroid, see what's going on, what's on it, take a sample, bring it back to Earth. Now, the reason I'm excited for, it kind of seems really science fiction. We're going to use them for deep space travel, essentially as floating islands. So that means we're going to find an asteroid going in the same direction we're trying to go in, and we're going to land on that asteroid. And we're going to stay on it until we get to where we're trying to go, and then we'll leave the asteroid and go to the planet or wherever we're trying to head. The idea is we're going to set a base camp on an asteroid and live there. Save fuel and all that stuff rather than stay in a ship the whole time, and then we'll leave when we're ready to get to where we're trying to go. Now, if anyone remembers that SpongeBob episode with the Krusty Krab pizza, where they used to ride the boulders for miles, Tyler, used to roll his babies for miles. Kind of the same thing, but a little different. Instead of a sponge and a starfish, it's going to be a rocket and humans. All right. Do you have any questions for me? Anything, guys? Any questions?
Why is there the rocks on the road as opposed to just the regular roadway, the tar?
Good question. Why do we use that special kind of rock? The reason I didn't tell you, I wasn't trying to bore you to death. Because it is by far the most interesting fact I'm going to tell you today. It is Alabama river rock from the Tennessee River. I know, exciting. Now, there's a number of reasons we use it. See, we can't use asphalt because we would actually sink in the asphalt. Where the road goes over the crawlerway, you can see track marks in the asphalt. And we can't use concrete because it would break. And you'd have cracks, we would just slide around. That's the main one. We would slide around, not get much traction. So we use that rock. It's about a foot of rock on top of the crawlerway, 6 inches to a foot in some spots, and about 7 to 8 feet of fill underneath the gravel. Now, the reason we use river rock, that specific river rock, number one, it crushes easily. So, on the rock grand scheme of things, it crushes easily. So it gives us good traction. The eagle's up there? Oh, okay. Okay, guys, on the right. Oh, the eagle's up there? Okay, so on the way back, we have an eagle nest over here. The eagle is actually up there today. So on the way back, we'll get a picture of our bald eagle. Not only is it crushed easily, but it doesn't have iron in it, and it doesn't spark when it crushes. And that's important for 2 reasons. We don't want a grease fire because of all the grease in the treads of the crawler, and we use solid rocket fuel. Solid rocket fuel, think of a firecracker. Once you light it, it's going somewhere, and you cannot turn it off. That's how the SRBs work. It was very important that nothing lit them on fire because we wanted them to light on the launch pad, not the middle of the crawler. But that's why we use Alabama river rock. Now you know that forever. Aren't you excited? Me too. All right. So we're headed out to the SLF. Now it's pretty interesting. Think about this. The shuttle landing facility is a 3-mile long, 1 continuous pour of concrete that is 22 inches thick. No cracks, no seams. We continuously poured it 24 hours a day for almost an entire year. 1 giant piece of concrete, 3 miles, about 4.5 kilometers wide, long, and 2 feet thick. So yeah, guys, this is inspiration. Like I said, this wasn't a regular space shuttle. This was for museums, that kind of stuff, space camp. But it is a 1-to-1 scale model. Everything inside looks like the space shuttle. But there's a few giveaways that you can tell it wasn't used for space travel. The number of tiles on the bottom, there aren't a lot of tiles on this one. The regular shuttle would have about 14,000 heat tiles, and as you can tell, this one does not have that. Also, all the shuttles did not have a white people door on the side with a regular handle. Now, this space shuttle is not Velociraptor proof. It does not. When I own a house, I will only have round doorknobs. because we learned the hard way in 1993. Remember that scene? Exactly. That's worse than Sharknado. Velociraptors on a shuttle? Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly.
Because they use.
You can only hope Samuel L. Jackson's there to help us.
Display.
Alright.
That one didn't fly in space. You can't fly in space. Okay?
Why can't I?
Why not? Because it's not built the same way.
It's not
It's not produced for rockets. It doesn't have all the heat
Pretty cool,
shields,
guys.
Right?
No, it's funny, because I always think to myself, people would rather see this big space shuttle than the real one inside Atlantis. I can understand that NASA's out on the runway, but think the real one, that's not a real one. You know, that's a model one. But people would rather see this one. But I used to work at Disney World. Oh, by the way, guys, I worked at Disney for a very long 2 years. Some people say too long, I say just long enough. All right, I worked in the parking lots. As you can tell, my dream job was to be a Jungle Cruise skipper. As you can tell, I would have done great, but they wanted no part of that, so they left me in the parking lot for 2 years. I worked at Hollywood Studios, and I worked at Magic Kingdom. I have some stories. I can write a book. But it always reminds me, like, the shuttle, alligators. When I was working out there, I remember one time, I saw this group of people corner a squirrel. I've never seen a squirrel so scared in his life. And they were all taking pictures of this squirrel. And I was like, wow, that's weird. Where I grew up, it sounds bad. We used to have wars between squirrels. Black squirrels hated the red squirrels, and the gray squirrels hated the brown squirrels. That's just how it was up in Massachusetts. For some reason, it's really weird. But down here, we don't get a lot of squirrels. And of course, this is the tourist capital of the world. So there's some people that have never seen squirrels before. I forgot about that. It's kind of like with the alligators. A lot of you, some of you may never see another wild alligator again. Same thing with the squirrels. I forget those types of things. All right, guys, coming up on the bald eagle's nest on the left side of the bus. Left side of the bus. All right. Okay, guys, gonna be there's two sets of trees. There's two trees here. There's a small. All right, this tree coming up here. You can see the smaller nest. It's not as big as the other one. It's a little smaller, but we have an American bald eagle in the nest. There he is, guys. Nothing more Americans. One time I saw one of our eagles sitting out on pad 39A. I said it was the most patriotic thing I'll ever see in my entire life. Obviously, besides Super Bowl 51. We're not done talking about that, right, Doug? No, we're never done. In case you guys missed it, the Patriots won. Yeah, right? I love Tom. We're on a first name basis. I had to explain, I was explaining to someone one time on my bus. This is how out of character I get sometimes. I was teaching a kid the 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon. In the middle of a bus tour. Because I told him that I know Tom Brady through one person. One of my best friends in high school used to get a Christmas card from Tom every year. Because he knew Bridget Moynihan's dad. He's such a great guy. We're going to win again this year, and next year, and the next year. You heard it here first. 19-0 this year. Heard it here first. I'm not kidding. All right. All right, guys, back to the tour. So I'm sad to say our time together has come to an end. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Did you enjoy your tour?
Yeah.
Awesome. Save that for my boss when you get off. Awesome. So we're going to drop you off here at the Saturn V Center. This is where we have our actual Saturn V rocket. It's the real deal. It's the length of a football field. We have a moon rock all you guys can touch. We already went over that. Wash your hands. Real lunar lander. Real space capsule from Apollo 14 and Alan Shepard's moon suit with moon dust on the moon still. And each and every one of you can walk across the same swing arm. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins walked across to get in their capsule for Apollo 11. We're going to drop you off here to set of double silver doors. Go through there, go to a pre-show, talk about Apollo 8, first time we use the Saturn V, first time we go out towards the moon. Then of course, then from there you'll be emptied into the actual firing room from the Apollo days. We took it out of the Launch Control Center and put it inside this building and do a great launch sequence from 3 minutes before launch till the windows actually start shaking. Then you'll walk out and see those big F1 engines and the big Saturn V. Now, those grandstands, those bleachers, that's the other viewing area I told you guys about. We call your congressman, state representative, or ambassador. That's Banana Creek. Now, make sure you grab all your belongings, guys.
Последній погляд на Кеннеді Space Center.